My name's Rob Graham. I'm the lead exercise specialist for a small charity based on the west coast of Scotland in Oban called Healthy Options. I also spent over 20 years working in the city of Newcastle upon Tyne with their leisure services division. Both roles involve taking referrals from local GP practices, dietitians and physiotherapists and other healthcare professionals for those living with long-term health conditions. And in a nutshell, using movement as medicine to improve their long-term health outcomes, both physical and mental. Now, I have a real passion for the natural world, which is one of the main reasons why I have relocated here to the beautiful island of Mull on the west coast of Scotland. And I've spent a lot of my free time in natural spaces just like this and come to realise how important it is for my own mental health. And although I've spent a lot of my time and will continue to do so working with clients within a gym-based operation or a swimming pool or fitness classes, which have their role to play, as time has gone on, realising how important these sort of areas are for my own mental health, I've come to realise that I really need to encourage my clients to spend a lot more time in natural environments as a means and a pathway of improving their long-term health outcomes. Ever wondered why spending time outdoors leaves you feeling much better that evening? So perhaps a walk through a forest, a coastal region, or perhaps even a nature reserve. We tend to feel a lot better after spending time in green spaces. And there may just be a little bit more to that than spending time in pleasant surroundings. Scientific research is showing that this can help to reduce our anxiety levels, our stress levels. It improves our attention span. We become more creative. We exhibit a greater ability to connect with others, and we can control some quite significant mental health problems such as depression, ADHD, and PTSD. Now, these days we're spending more and more time in urban environments, in concrete jungles. There's been a huge population move into cities and towns, and that may not be doing us a great deal of good in terms of our health. So research has shown that by spending more time in green spaces, we can reduce our heart rate, we become more relaxed, we exhibit less anxiety, we improve our mood, and we really help to control our stress response, our cortisol response, which is our stress hormone, which is only designed to be turned on in terms of a fight or flight response. But these days, our busy lives are leaving us with that response turned on way too much of the time. Access to green spaces dampens down that response. And also by being in areas like this, we can boost our immune response as well, and never more has that been key than currently during the pandemic. We've actually seen that patients who are recovering from major operations will discharge from hospital quicker if they have a view of a green space or a tree, for example, as opposed to a brick wall or an urban setting. And being in nature, basically it soothes us, it relaxes us, it improves our memory, so our cognitive function improves as well. So what's actually happening here? Well, we tend to see a big release of two of our happy hormones when we spend time in natural surroundings, dopamine and serotonin. Serotonin improves our memory, our sleep patterns, our behavior profiles, and it improves our appetite as well. Dopamine improves our movement, our emotional response, and our ability to feel pleasure as well. And this is not a new procedure in terms of getting people into wild spaces. This originated really in the Far East. It was known as forest bathing there. But more and more these days we're seeing green prescriptions offered by GPs and other health professionals, encouraging more and more people to get into the great outdoors. The other term that you may have heard of is rewilding, which I quite like, because rewilding is actually about trying to reintroduce an animal into a natural environment where it once belonged. Here on the Isle of Mull, for example, we've had a reintroduction of sea eagles back into the sort of natural food chain. And really, I like the term rewilding because it's about getting humans back to where they should belong and their natural environment, because this is where we have evolved and it's where we belong. One of the best ways to bring animals a little bit closer to you, because unfortunately they see us as a bit of a threat most of the time, is get yourself a decent set of binoculars. You don't have to spend a fortune, and again, a great little present for a young child or somebody just starting to take a bit more of an interest in the natural world. And it allows us the opportunity not to get so close to the animal that we push it away and we frighten it, but to observe it from a respectable distance and hopefully take in a little bit more about the way that animal is living its life close to you. You might want to take up a bit of photography, maybe use camera. Again, it doesn't have to be a large lens like this. A lot of plants that perhaps around the garden make good subjects for photography. Insects, butterflies, things that are close to your home might make a good start in terms of wildlife photography. Sometimes getting close to animals can be a little bit difficult with a small lens. And if that's the case, you might want to also look at investing in something like a little trail camera. Now, these are a self-activated camera activated by movement and heat. And you can strap these to a post or a tree, whether it be near your house, your back garden, or in a local wildlife reserve, something like that. And you can have a little look at what's happening perhaps after dark as well. So really good for getting close to animals or views of animals that are perhaps a little bit more wary of human beings and who maybe only come out at night, so maybe foxes, badgers, owls, and that sort of thing. And also when you're out and about, a few little hints and tips. Get yourself a good set of waterproof trousers. The great advantage there is that whenever you come across even just a landscape you want to sit down and enjoy, or you want to have a picnic when you're out and about, or if you've found an animal and you want to spend a bit of time with it, then you can just sit on the ground. You're not desperately looking around for a seat or something similar. And it just gives you that option to sit and enjoy and watch the animal for a longer period of time without getting soaked. Also, you might want to think about wearing some dark clothes. A lot of animals can't really see a great deal of colours as we do, but dark clothes will still help with the vast majority. And also just be aware of the animal's senses. So compared to us, most animals' sense of eyesight, their smell, their hearing is finely tuned compared to human beings. Especially a sense of smell. So think about coming at an animal downwind of it, and that way you won't cast your scent. And we're not really fully tuned in just to how much smell that we cast upon the natural world. And we're very easy to pick up from quite a long way away for especially a lot of animals, such as deer, otter, fox. It's an early giveaway, so just think about your wind direction when you're approaching an animal like that. And also you might want to think about the time that you go out as well. So dusk and dawn are probably the best times to see a lot of animals, especially again some of our more wary mammals, perhaps those that are nocturnal as well. Quite often your best times to actually see them in some sort of light or just before the light disappears in the evening, and as the first rays come up first thing in the morning. So to maximise your time, it might be an idea to set the alarm clock a little bit earlier than normal. A great way to increase your engagement with nature is to invite it closer to your home. And that can be done through something as simple as a bird feeding station, and maybe set that up by your favourite window where you have a nice seat, and perhaps after your morning stroll you can sit down and have a look at what's coming into your feeders. Other simple things you can do is perhaps put a pond in. If you build it, nature will find a way, it will get there. It doesn't have to be a lake, even just a bucket submerged in the ground. Things like frogs and toads will find a way to get there and make use of it and set up home. Other things you can do, perhaps set up some bird boxes or maybe even bat boxes. And these sort of things are very, very easy to build. If you go on websites such as the RSPB, there's guidelines there on how to put them together, along with things like hedgehog homes. And perhaps in your garden, one of the best things you can do is have it a little bit less manicured. And by that I mean a bit less paving perhaps, a bit less gravel, because that affects the rate at which water will leave that area. And perhaps let a little bit of it go wild if you can. And you might be amazed at the animals that will move in and make use of that habitat if it's not manicured beyond belief. Other things you can do, perhaps plant some native trees, will always help, and maybe some pollinating plants. And even if you don't have a garden, or your garden is very small, things like window boxes can make a real difference. And if you plant some pollinating flowers on a window box, things like bees and other pollinators, again, they will find a way to get there. And through that engagement with your local wildlife, you may just find that really boosts your self-esteem, and it gives you a little project perhaps to work on, especially if it's something you can do with children, and get them involved, because again, they're our future, and if we can get them involved and interested in the natural world when they're early, then they're far more likely to carry that on into adulthood. So have a little think about what you can do in your space, make full use of it. The wildlife will thank you for it, and it will also help your mental health. There's been a big increase in the last 5 to 10 years in those practicing the art of mindfulness. Now, I'm often asked what it's all about in my job role, and I think a lot of people are turned off because they envisage something closer to meditation, where they're going to have to spend a lot of time and effort getting to grips with new techniques and a new practice. For me, it's not really about that at all. And mindfulness can be practiced in as much as 20, 30 seconds or a lot more time if you have that time available to you. And this is really important when we're out and about in nature, because as an animal, we've become a little bit over-dependent upon our eyes. And our other senses have been neglected as time has gone on, and we don't tune into them enough. So when you're out and about, don't just think about what you can see. Perhaps listen for animal calls. You can probably hear the wind whistling across the microphone as I'm talking to you at this current time. And just try to take that in, even if it's just for a short period of time. And the whole idea about mindfulness is just being about truly present in the moment. You don't have to be hugging a tree or sitting under the same tree cross-legged and chanting. It's just about really taking it in and trying to tune out from all of life's worries, concerns and stresses. Give yourself that little bit of free time. Also think about the smells that are there. Quite often you can pick up on other animals, like a fox for example. They have quite a musky smell if there's one nearby lately. And obviously as we go into the summer, we have lots of flowers coming out. There's some wild garlic, and just try to take that in. Tune in with the ears as well. You might have a lot of animals are given away by the noises they make, by their calls. Sometimes alarm calls of small animals will alert you to the presence of a predator that's nearby. And also just have a little look around. I've stopped at this tree, for example. Now this is an old, pretty dead tree, but within the first notch there, we have mosses, we have lichens, and there's also ferns starting to grow there. And it's just a little example of the sort of symbiotic relationship that's going on in this local environment. And that includes all the animals, and it includes us as well. We're a key part of the ecosystem. And perhaps we can be mindful in terms of trying to reduce the impact of our footprint upon our local environment, and maybe learn a little bit more about it and how we can play a key role in conserving it and preserving it so that in the future more of us can enjoy it. There's a wealth of resources available to you if you'd like to learn a little bit more about perhaps the wildlife that's right on your doorstep. Now, there are many websites available that may help along. A couple of examples are the RSPB website, which is a great little section on how to identify birds, not just visually, but also from their calls as well, which might be a really interesting little project to do with children. But there's also your local wildlife trusts will have websites available to you, and I know the Scottish Wildlife Trust does a fantastic little section which is called Take a Closer Look At, and they have little short videos on various animals, habitats, and again a great thing to get kids involved with as well. And also there's a wealth of books available to you. I've got a few here as examples, so you might want to get yourself a little sort of bird identification guide, perhaps something a bit smaller than that you can carry with you. The RSPB do a great little set of guides on the wildlife of Britain. This one includes just about all the plants that you could see in the UK, as well as all the animals. There'll also be books on perhaps different parts of Britain, so if you're staying at home this year, the staycation seems to be the way to go. And if you'd like a little bit of information on perhaps places where you could go, where you might get to see some slightly different habitats to what you have at home and the sort of animals that you're likely to see, things like this one, The Wildlife of Britain, could be really important to you. Lots of books available these days on rewilding as well, and how you might go about enjoying your time a little bit more in nature. The added bonus of getting active in wild places is that along with the associated mental health improvements, we can obviously benefit from a wide range of physiological improvements as well. It's holistic self-care. We can improve our cardiovascular fitness, our stamina, our joint function, our range of motion, our muscle strength, our bone density, our postural stability, and all-round functional capacity. So the activities of daily life become easier and more enjoyable. Also reduces our risk of falls as we get older. So being active outdoors can also increase our calorific expenditure, meaning weight loss is more achievable and maintaining a healthy body weight is more likely. And of course, we significantly reduce the risk of developing some of life's long-term health conditions such as heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and a range of cancers as well. And a great way to achieve all this is to link your time in green spaces with perhaps an enjoyable hobby or interest. Many will find this through walking or perhaps gardening. And the garden is just a fantastic outdoor gym basically. It plays a crucial role in maintaining a positive mental outlook alongside conditioning our bodies, making us stronger and more resilient. But perhaps you could also tax your heart and lungs in a slightly different way by taking up another active hobby such as canoeing or kayaking. And recently there's been a real increase in the uptake of those performing open water swimming and paddle boarding. And this can be done on inland, coastal waters or rivers or lakes, and it's an amazing way to see your local environment and the wildlife within it from a completely different perspective. Or what about trying to see your local patch and enjoying nature from a self-powered two-wheel perspective instead of the more polluting, noisy, motorized four-wheel option. So, keep nature in mind, get out there, tread lightly, and be respectful of the environment and the wildlife within it. It will pay you back in ways that perhaps you never thought was possible. Take only photographs and leave only footprints. And when you start to experience some of the benefits that we've touched upon in this short film, then perhaps you'll even consider ways of how you can protect and conserve your local green spaces. That might be changing the way you live to reduce your carbon footprint and the effect upon the climate. It may be volunteering for a wildlife trust, for example, or perhaps something as simple as gathering up a few family and friends and carrying out a beach clean. You never know. While you're there, you might just experience something truly amazing and leave you with a memory that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. Oh my goodness. Oh, you're having a giggle. Oh well, it's worth getting up this morning. Amazing.